You kind of alluded to it earlier, but you are an independent entrepreneur. You have your own. What is it called? What is your company called?
Sound Creature Interactive.
Sound Creature Interactive. Oh yeah, let's give me a card here. Let's be professional. Even though
it's my second run of business cards.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had an actual
where the
wow, look at that.
the actual font can be read now. I made it too small the first time.
All right. Okay. Okay. So
this.
How has the independent lifestyle been? I mean, you've worked at Naughty Dog, you've worked for games at Bungie and stuff. You've worked with and at big studios. Has this been a lifestyle shift?
Yeah, the largest portion of my career at any one place would have been at Sony PlayStation.
Right, yeah.
For almost 9 years, and I was in the internal sound team there. And yeah, a couple years freelance at Activision, and which got me involved with the Destiny thing shortly, or for a short period, and. But yeah, sorry, what was the question? So I've been at these places. How did I wind up?
Well, no, just how has the lifestyle shift been from?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm sure you know, and we've talked about, I like what I like about it is a bunch of things. I like having control over my daily schedule a little bit more. That ties into a thing about younger generation that we should talk about at some point. But
okay, we can talk about it now. I mean, what do you?
Well, it reminded me of a conversation I was having with my older brother and his son last week, because his son works in software development, and he was complaining about, the whole thing about the youngest generation, like graduating college and being ready to be a CEO.
Right. Yeah.
Phenomenon. So we live in a society, and our generation is part of it, where I think we just work ourselves too hard. I think there's nothing wrong with working hard, but I think there is something wrong with not taking care of yourself as a human.
Yes.
And without getting into too much detail,
sure.
I've been in an industry where we can work like 60, 70, 80-hour weeks for a long time, and that's not taking care of myself as a human. Running my own thing, it depends what the situation is, but I don't have people watching my hours and my time like they might at a company where I work as an employee. So I like the freedom of how I spend my time and when I spend my time. Like if I want to work all night, I can, and I do. It's not that I don't wind up working crazy hours, because I do, but I have a little more flexibility in my time. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because if I'm not showing up for a job 9 to 5, I can adjust the rest of my life to suit my work, and adjust my work to suit my life a little better, if that makes sense. I have more freedom for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've my company, I started it almost 25 years ago. So I've been independently self-employed for a long time, but there were periods of time where I've tried to fire myself several times. Unsuccessfully, and I remember one time I was consulting at this company that then hired me full-time briefly, and I just remember having to ask for time off to go visit my parents, and I was just like, what? Because as an independent business owner or whatever, I have to deal with the financial consequences of maybe not working, but I can take as much time off as I want.
I'm doing that right now.
Right, you do that, yeah. I could go visit my parents, I could do whatever I want, and there was this time where I couldn't. People got 2 weeks off a year and that's it. And that included your sick days. And I just remember having to ask the CEO of this company for permission to go home and see my parents. And it was so insulting to me personally.
So thanks. So what you're describing is kind of more about where my head was at too, which is it kind of, when you run your own business, it kind of takes you out of that whole game that you have to get into about and guilt trip or whatever it is, and fitting into a system that employs me and satisfying requirements of the company. There's this whole layer of kind of a lot of which is BS that I don't have to deal with now. I mean, it's necessary BS because employing humans is tricky sometimes. Yes. I know that's why it exists.
Herding cats.
But me, as an independent, and you as an independent, the thing about us, the reason we're surviving like that is because we get the work done. That's kind of the thing I didn't say when I was talking about this at the beginning, is that now my schedule may not be a 9 to 5 thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if I have a pile of work I've been asked to do that my client needs done, and I know a deadline, I get it done. And it's up to me to fit my time to get the work done and to get the quality where it needs to be. And sometimes that does mean I have to work more than I feel is healthy for me. But I guess I have more choice overall in how crazy my schedule gets, and I like that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Then there's also the issue of being an outsider, an independent developer working with large companies, and you have to interface with their weird corporate. Like I've worked with companies where I get calls at night from panicked executives telling me about the Game of Thrones machinations behind the scenes that affect my project. And I'm kind of like, I don't give a shit. I don't work there.
Wow. That's almost like a therapy thing, though. It's
right.
like somebody just needs a human connection.
They think
they know that you're not in the company
right.
suffering that way, and they're like, I want to talk to a guy who is free.
Like I've consulted at companies where I show up at a company and the CEO's an idiot. And everybody just, has to humor him because he has the money. He got the investment. And I show up like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And, I can, one thing about being independent is you have many bosses and you can fire your boss. Yeah. But whereas like a lot of these places, I could see them gritting their teeth and bearing it. But of course, I know people who work at big companies have great careers, great benefits, great projects. So, I mean, they're not all like that, but it's just kind of funny sometimes this sort of clash between you coming in as an independent and some of these larger clients or some of these bigger projects and stuff.
Yeah. The other thing I thought about, that conversation I was telling you I had with my brother and his son about, young people and, there's this thing I noticed, and in fact, it's on teams I work with too, where, people will call in sick because they have a headache. And I don't know, did people used to call in just because they had a headache? You had to be kind of really sick. In my memory,
sure.
At least.
Of course, then you would get the whole office
I feel like
sick.
there's people more frequently call in sick for stuff that sounds kind of minor to me. And like, here's the thing. I kind of like that. I think that's actually a good thing. I think people should take a day off if they're feeling like a headache.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what their headache's about. First of all, it's none of my business.
Sure.
If someone says they had a headache, the thing is, it goes back again to that thing. If I take a day off for a headache, it's on me to make sure my work gets done still. And that's what I try to do. And I think there may be young people who come into the workforce who don't understand that. They just want to take advantage of that. So there's a bit of that sometimes too. And but anyway, I think I guess the theme of what I'm saying is, there is a way to work hard and get your work done and make great stuff, but also maybe pay a little more attention to taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And it can work, but yeah, I have to prioritize taking care of myself, because if I don't, I'm going to burn out, and then I'm not going to be able to work. And I have burned out.
Yeah.
I've had crunches that went on a little too long, and just been physically and mentally exhausted. And that's the whole crunch thing. I don't want to go too far with that. It's been discussed. But the quality of work that gets done when you're working those kind of hours is easily like going to be less than if you just take a day off when you need it.
Yeah, I've kind of discussed in previous interviews, but I think crunch today, I could be wrong because I've been out of the system for a while, but crunch today is kind of a different nature than it used to, because there's been laws passed since the 90s. There's been compensation structures set up, but it's still a thing and it still sucks. Yeah,
so I mean, as someone who's independent and runs his own thing, that is like a nice freedom, is that I'm not as tied to a schedule usually. It really depends who I'm working for and what the project is when we're going to be finished. Now, if I want to be busier, I was telling you earlier, like, if I want my business to grow, I do need to do a little more of that crunching.
Yeah.
And the way to keep from having to work too much is to get people to help me.
Yes.
And so I need budget for that.
Right.
So, and it's funny because that's on me.
Yeah.
When I'm working for a company, I'm just waiting for them to hire more people to help me, unless I have a more managerial position. And I guess I'm still involved in trying to find people to do the work. But somehow, being independent and having to figure all this stuff out on your own, it's also eye-opening. I think if I had to be an employee again somewhere, I'm better informed
Yes.
about what it takes to run a business. I might have a little more humility,
Yeah,
or
I agree.
understanding.
Yeah, in my early days of working in 9-to-5 jobs, I was kind of an asshole to some of my bosses and stuff.
Yeah, you don't.
And now, like, I'm doing this for over 2 decades. I'm like, you know what? It's not, the other side of the fence isn't so easy. I would probably have a little bit more empathy or, consideration for some of the choices made that, when you're younger, like, seem like the worst things ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's eye-opening.
Yeah.
To have to run your own business.
And I tell people today too, like, I don't know, there's sort of this entrepreneurship worship, but I think there's a lot of great 9-to-5 jobs out there and careers you can get that are better than the risk of starting your own business. It just depends on the situation. There's no one size fits all. I think there's a lot of like people that try to like denigrate, 9-to-5 jobs versus entrepreneurship, but both of them have pluses and minuses.
Yeah, I guess the denigrating part would be staying in a 9-to-5 job that really sucks out of fear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I agree. There are some.
The only thing is you get to a certain age
situations
where you're
that
not
are
as mobile. As mobile, age isn't being a thing. I mean, in tech, it starts in your early 30s,
Yeah.
where you might have to stay at that job because you can't get another one, not for lack of qualifications, but just because of biases. And
It's hard to get hired.
Yeah, it's hard to get hired.
I'm probably enjoying that too. I haven't really tried anything lately, but yeah. So yeah, understand. Also, I mean, there's a part of me, I like learning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things I had to learn, and I'm still learning about how to run a business. And I've hired, there's business mentorships you can do. You can get people to show you things. That stuff's cool. Then I don't do anything they say. Yeah. And then I remember a year later, wow, I remember being told I should do this, this, and this, and I didn't. Maybe I'll try that now. Mm-hmm. And then I try it, and it's like, oh, why didn't I do this?
Yeah.
It's funny. You get resistance to things sometimes. You don't even know you're resisting. Mm-hmm. And then if you pay attention, you realize it, and you get to try a different thing. And it's fun. It's fun to learn things that are not like necessarily what got me wanting to do what I do for my career, mm-hmm. but that help me be more independent. They give you more power. They mm-hmm. give you more freedom to run your own thing. So,
all right.
Yeah.